Are you thinking about moving into Toronto area? Not really sure 100% where it is or whether you'll like it or you won't like it or what the city really has to offer? So let's take a look where Toronto is. My reference point will be upstate New York. If you know the United States, you'll probably be able to follow pretty easily. So here we are in upstate New York. We are looking at the Buffalo, New York area right here. We have Niagara Falls just to the north of Buffalo. And then of course, you can see in the middle of Lake Ontario, we have the United States on one side, and then we have beautiful Canada on the other side. So we're looking in the Ontario area and focusing more on the Toronto market right here. You can see that we're not that far away from Buffalo, New York, or upstate New York, as you may want to call it. What Toronto, where Toronto, and how Toronto might be of interest to you. Just to cover some ground before we really dig into the real Toronto area. And as I have pointed out, here's Toronto right here. Toronto will cover pretty much this whole area in through here, through this section here. Again, to this point. So this particular area here is what we're going to refer to as Toronto. Just to the north of the Toronto market, we have a beautiful city called Markham, which is a really, really pretty area. Richmond Hill, just to the west of Markham, which is, again, very, very pretty. And we have the Vaughan, Woodbridge, Thornhill area. These areas we'll cover a little bit later on. Right now, we're going to be focusing more on the Toronto market, but not to discount that you've got Mississauga, you've got Brampton. These make up Peel region, and you then work in the Burlington and Oakville area, which again, very, very pretty to look at. But now let's kind of focus our energy in Toronto. See if we can make this a little bit bigger for you and get an understanding of where we are. Before really diving into this particular marketplace in Toronto, let's take a look at the highways that surround Toronto. We have Highway 427 to the west, which is a north-south corridor, and you can see it pretty runs all north and south, goes quite far north. We have to the east and west on the lower side of Toronto, where we have the QEW that runs this way into Niagara Falls, upstate New York. Unfortunately, we don't have any kind of road that runs across the waterfront to get us very quickly to upstate New York, but who knows what the future will. We then have a highway here, and this highway is our Gardiner Expressway, and it will be right here, east-west corridor. This east-west corridor then runs into the Don Valley Parkway, which again is a north-south corridor, and it kind of runs up to Highway 401 area. Highway 401 is the major highway that runs all the way through Ontario. Just so you know, Highway 401 has roughly about 720,000 cars per day that use this particular highway. So if you can imagine that number of cars per day, and probably double that in the rush hour in Toronto. And it can get fairly congested across this 401. There are times that are not as busy times when the 401 is a great highway. And that's our east-west corridor highway being the 401. 401 will take us all the way out into the province of Quebec, where they call it the Belle Province. And again, it will take us all the way out west, which will take us into Michigan, and where we can cross at the city of Detroit, or some other cities in around that area. So again, the 401 is our major highway. Now, if we look just to the north of the 401, we have a highway that is a toll road highway, and it is our Highway 407. So Toronto does have a number of major routes that can be taken to kind of manipulate yourself around city limits. Sometimes not that easy, but the good thing about the toll road is usually it's really easy on an east-west corridor to make yourself easily transport from the east all the way across to the west. You'll see this 407 drops down a gate and actually connects back into Highway 401. If we look again in the Toronto marketplace and kind of center ourselves right along this line, this street is called Steeles Avenue, and Steeles is the border between Toronto to the south and Vaughan or Markham or Richmond Hill, etc. to the north. It is a toll road, easily accessible and easy to travel on. Never had a problem in any kind of traffic jams during rush hours. I mean, it gets a little busy, but never a major issue getting across. There is also a highway here called Highway 400, which is a north-south route, and it will take you north from Highway 401, which is here, and it will continue north, up north, and this is kind of one of the major routes that we would take if we're heading up into the northern section, into the beautiful countryside, into the more rural areas, into cottage country, to the northern areas, be a major highway. Not to mention that this highway can get pretty busy, especially in the summertime, especially on a Friday night or a Saturday morning when so many people are starting to head into their cottages. So if you aim at the right times, you're good to go. If we look at Toronto, Toronto is bordered by 427 here to the west, and it's bordered by a Rouge. Right here on the east side, you've got Scarborough, which is a major area. You've got Toronto, or Old York, as some people might want to call it. And you have the Etobicoke area. In with Etobicoke, you have what we call it New Toronto. Some of these areas and pockets are absolutely beautiful, depending on where you'd like to go. And along these properties, you can see, will actually be waterfront properties, depending on where you might be situated. Here on the Port Union side, on this side, there's a lot of beach area through here, a lot of great walking paths, bicycle paths that will take you in through different parts of the city and back into some wooded area. Absolutely beautiful. So Toronto is made up of several different areas. Years ago, Toronto was actually separated where we had Scarborough as its own city. We had Toronto as its own city. We had this side, which is the Etobicoke side, which also maintained its own city in through this whole corridor. And each of these had their own municipalities and their own city halls. Some years ago, they were all amalgamated into Toronto. I live at such an address in Scarborough, Ontario, postal code. Everything now can be placed in Toronto, Ontario. If we open this up a little bit, one thing I'd like to show you here. Down here is the island. We call this Ward Island or Centerville, Centerpoint Island. You can only cross here by ferry. In the summertime, this area is gorgeous. All kinds of beaches that line in through here, and marinas, sailboating, boating in general, absolutely gorgeous. You can see on our waterfront in Toronto proper, there's lots of beach area through here that one could easily enjoy throughout the entire summer. And moving on with it, as you can see, there are different museums that you can enjoy. Here's the Royal Ontario Museum, which is a massive and beautiful museum, extremely up to date. On the northeast side of that, you've got the Ontario Science Centre, which is a great thrill to take my kids and watch them explore science. It's absolutely enjoyable, especially now with my grandchildren, being able to take them. It's a real good day out. Every area of Toronto that could be millions of dollars in a home, under $1 million in a home. So the flexibility and price variables are quite huge. There is no shortage of quality homes at a lesser price, and there's certainly no shortage of really good quality large homes at a much higher value. And no matter where you are in Toronto, whether you're in the north sector up into this marketplace, this is actually the marketplace where I have my home. I have lived in Ontario my entire life. I've traveled and lived in different parts of Ontario, whether it's been up here in the Thornhill market, out here in Hamilton, which is about 45 miles to the southwest of Toronto, or in the Scarborough market. I've certainly had different homes in different areas. And I can tell you, depending on what you think your budget might be, for the Toronto area, we're talking about budgets that, our average price in Ontario right now in the Toronto market, you're going to be around the 1.1 to 1.3 on an average. That doesn't mean that you can't find a nice home for $800,000 or less than $1 million. And the fact is, you can certainly find some absolutely beautiful homes for the 3, 4, 5 million. And if you really are interested in something magnificent, we can then take you into some areas where homes could be in the $10 to $30 million range. If you're looking for condo apartments, again, you can look at the downtown corridor here for some beautiful apartments, and you can find some beautiful condo apartments between $500,000 and $800,000 if you want something luxurious. Certainly, you will go higher than that. Not that it's necessary, but you can certainly find some beautiful property. Whether it's in a condo apartment, in a condo townhouse, there's lots of availability of different kinds of property. If you look in this particular area, where Yorkdale is noted here, we have a shopping mall called Yorkdale Shopping Mall, which is the most beautiful shopping mall. It is the #1 shopping mall in all of Canada and houses some really pretty stores, large mall, and growing fairly rapidly. But Toronto has several malls in all different parts of the city that you can certainly travel to. If you're looking for parks, we have no shortage of parks at all, whether it be in the High Park region, which is out into this area here, High Park, or whether you're looking at the northern sector, which is Earl Bills Park, G. Ross Ward Park, all named after famous people, but nonetheless, we have no shortage of parks at all. Doesn't matter what sector you're going to live in, what area you have a preference in, there is going to be all kinds of places that you can ride a bike, that you could potentially have some sunbathing, have some water park, all kinds of activities that you can do, walking trails, absolutely no shortage whatsoever. One of the really nice things about Toronto, you can see as I grow it, streets become more dominant. And as you can see on these streets, we have an area here, Castle Lomer, which is an old castle that was brought over from England and put back together brick by brick. It's Kensington Market, which is a very old area. What I'm kind of looking at here, if you look carefully in these areas, all of these side streets that we're looking at, all of these streets, you can see how there is residential everywhere, whether you're in Cabbagetown, which is a gorgeous area, whether you're in the south in Corktown or the Distillery District, regardless of where you are, there is residential everywhere. So beautiful part of this, if you are working in the downtown core, depending on what your budget of home is, you can actually find a nice home in the downtown core somewhere, whether it's in a higher rise condo, whether it's in a townhouse, whether it's in a detached home, and whether your budget is $600,000 or whether your budget is $25 million. There are pockets that you can live in all of these areas that are going to be fairly close if you're working in the downtown. So travel is going to be fairly easy because we have a subway line that runs right across Bloor Street. We have a subway line that runs right down Yonge Street on the north-south corridor all the way north. So, and we have another line up here at the top that would run across Shepherd Avenue, east and west subway lines, and you have north and south subway. So if you're working or living in this area, hypothetically, it won't be difficult for you without the use of a vehicle to travel into some other areas, whether it's in the financial district of downtown, whether it's in the more northern sector in the Toronto market. If you're living a little bit in the northern area, you can see up in these areas here and across in these areas here, there's still all kinds of housing. And again, transportation to head south into Toronto is fairly easy. There are subway lines running north and south on the east side, and here on the west side, you have a subway line. So both are covered east and west sides, and obviously from the east to the west, So you could virtually travel south on one side, cut across the Blue Corridor, and again, you could then head back up north, and you would have virtually an entire square of subway that you could travel across. Now, that's not including the fact that we have amazing GO trains and LRTs, the light rail transportation, that is available in many sections as well. So Toronto has just so much to offer, whether it's in parklands, whether it's in the housing market, whether you're looking for something in a detached home or semi-detached home, or a townhouse or a row house, or some type of higher rise apartment to rent, or an apartment to purchase as well. The availability is extremely widespread. Again, if you're living in the Toronto area, there's absolutely no shortages of homes and areas that you can visit. If you're north of the 401, you have a subway line, again, that extends all the way through here. Actually, it comes from up here on the north sector, and it then cuts across, ends up coming down the Allen Expressway all the way down to downtown Toronto. So traveling across the Toronto market, Toronto City, is extremely easy. As I said, on the north sector, you've got a east-west line that runs across Shepherd Avenue here, and this is your Allen Road. There is a complete subway that runs down Allen Road all the way down to the bottom of the city, which is our Union Station area, and everything just connects. Easily flying out. I mean, if you have a vehicle and you'd like to drive that vehicle everywhere, you're certainly welcome to do that. Rush hour is going to be a little bit more challenging to get around, but outside of rush hour, it's easy to travel through. Listen, if you have any questions specifically gearing to an area, I have lived in Ontario my entire life. I've lived in Toronto and have traveled through Toronto my entire life. If there's certain information that you're interested in, specific questions, reach out by email, by text, by telephone, by courier pigeon, whatever works the best for you, and I'll be sure to answer whatever questions you have. We are going to be looking at all different areas and showing you what kind of houses you're going to be able to purchase. Obviously, can't do that today. We will be showing you all kinds of homes in all kinds of different areas and what the price points of all of these homes are. So once again, if you're looking for some information, reach out, ask me a question. Be more than pleased to help you. Have a great day.